Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Dr. Martha Simmons with another session of Preaching and Preachers on Facebook Live and on YouTube. Come on in and let me know that you are out there for what I know is going to be an amazing broadcast. This is the broadcast. People kept asking about it, asking for it. So here we are. Here we are. Come on in and let me know that you are out there. It's a sunny Monday in Atlanta. Jamal Roberts won American Idol. So I'm really happy today. Yeah, Mississippi in the house. Uh, it's a wonderful day here in Atlanta. Come on in and let me know that you all are out there. And when you come in, type in the name of another person, or as you all would say, tag someone. They can come on right now and catch the broadcast, or it will be up on my page for a couple of weeks, and it will be up on YouTube much longer. Come on in and let me know that you are out there. Come on in. Let me make sure. All right, that folk can chat. And I don't know if we're going to have time today to take your questions, but if I see a consistent theme, then I will jump on that. I'm going to give folk about 30 seconds to come on in, and then we'll go ahead and there we go. There we go. Okay, everything is now. I see it. I see people coming in. You can see it. You all are going to love this session. This is a session you're going to listen to and then play again. There will be so much information today. So much information. Uh, I want to give my guests as much time as possible. All right, Charlene Long, good to have you with me. Uh, when you come in, type in the name of another person who you know will be helped by this broadcast. Everybody's talking about tech, everybody's talking about AI. We got what you need today. Herbert Ponder, good to have you with me. Let's go ahead and get started. As always, let us pray for those who are sick. Let us pray for those who are experiencing a season of bereavement. Especially today, do I lift the family of Pastor L.K. Curry, a giant in ministry. And let us pray for the city of St. Louis and the surrounding cities and towns. 27 or 28 people have died due to the storms in the central part of the United States. So let us pray. And for those of you who can help those in need, please do so. Um, just a couple of quick announcements on the 26th. It's Memorial Day. So you all enjoy that. And I will be enjoying the last part of my birthday. So there won't be a broadcast on that day. Also, want to just take a moment to say thank you. People were just so kind, just so kind for my birthday. I mean, the outpouring, and I don't want you to think that I'm overlooking it. I still have not had a chance to respond to every text, every card, every call, every Cash App gift, every Zelle gift, the flowers, it was just overwhelming. And so I want to say thank you, especially want to thank my sons and daughters in ministry who showed up and showed out. On June 2nd, we're going to do a broadcast on freedom fighting. We are still in this, and so we're going to have some guests to talk about where we are now. I thought I turned my phone off. Now I'm embarrassed. I thought I turned it off on my broadcast. Um, and then on June the 10th, we're going to do a special broadcast on divorce. People have always say, Doc, we need to hear more about marriage, more about divorce. We are going to do it on June 16th, June 16th, with Reverend Anetra Jones and Doctors Chris Davis, John Faison, Corey Jones, and Irie Lynn Session. I hope you will join me for that important broadcast. All right, let's get started. Let's get started. I'm telling you, I'm hyped about this broadcast because of the guest. My first guest is the Reverend D.K. Hammond. He is an American pastor, leadership coach, and entrepreneur known for integrating spiritual guidance with leadership development. And he's also the one making all that noise. And digital discipleship. He's moving stuff around. He's a native of Little Rock, Arkansas. He began his professional career as a computer technician and later became an IT manager. In 2023, he answered his call to ministry, and he combined his background in technology, project management, and leadership to empower churches and organization. He holds a bachelor's in Christian ministry and project managers from Dallas Baptist University. He is the CRO of Amplify, a consulting and media firm, and the founder of DK Consultants. He helps organizations. So don't you all flood my inbox asking me the questions. You all reach out to the guest, okay? And he helps organizations and churches grow. He has a passion for digital discipleship. And he is, like I said, he's one of the people out here doing it, especially for churches and nonprofits. Next, we have the Reverend Dr. Justin Lester. And he always wants you to know, he starts his bio like this: he's a dad, he's a husband, and a follower of Jesus. He holds a Master of Divinity from Vanderbilt, a Master of Arts from Marquette, and a doctorate in ministry from Boston University, where his dissertation, which was titled Let's Play Church, gamifying New England Black churches and revitalization. It explores innovative approaches to revitalizing Black churches. As I said, these are the people you all want to call. He is the author of The Church of AI. And you want to get that book. He is, like I said, he's the person, one of the people out here that we can count on doing this. Beyond his pastoral work, he serves on the board of trustees for the Black Religious Scholars Group as their AI expert, the advisory council for Harvard Business Review. And I shouldn't say this, but he wants you to know he is a lover of Marquette basketball and coffee. We have that in common. And he's a big Green Bay Packers fan. We do
only
not.
team that matters. The only team that matters.
No, and no. Okay. And last but not least, we have, and this is her first time on my broadcast, and oh my God, am I honored. Dr. Fallon Wilson is a visionary, public interest technologist with over 15 years of experience leveraging technology for social equity, particularly within Black tech ecosystems and historically Black colleges in universities, HBCUs. She is the co-founder and lead principal investigator of the Black Tech Futures Research Institute, where she has been pivotal in advancing Black tech ecosystems in southern U.S. cities like Houston, Nashville, Memphis, and Birmingham. Her work includes launching a Black public interest. This is where I first heard about her, was when she launched a Black public interest technology summer training program for 20% of all HBCUs, and she created Black Tech Policy Week. It's a national dialogue that attracts over 6,000 attendees. She holds a bachelor's of arts, in political science from Spelman College, a master's of arts in political science from the University of Chicago, and the Ph.D. in social service administration. And she recently launched the National Juneteenth Digital Equity Bible Study with 10,000 people tuning in online. And there were people also in person. And she's doing this to build a movement for digital equity. Oh my God, I'm just so honored. She's a member of the World Economic Forum and advisory board member for the Siegel Family Endowment, a member of the Digital Equity Research Center Advisory Board, and a founder and member of Sisters for Digital Equity. And I'm just going to stop right there. I think you all get it. I think you get it. We are just, we're so pleased and proud to have them with us. I want to give them as much time as possible. If you are on, type in the name of another person, tag somebody. If they can't get on right now, they can watch this on my page for a couple of weeks and on YouTube for quite some time. Let's go right to it. Reverend D.K. Hammond, Google and other search engines remove Black History Month and Women's History. And some change the name of the Gulf of Mexico. What should Black folks be doing with that? The phrase good data in and good data out. What does that look like, good data?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Can y'all hear me good? I want to make sure.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I think good data is data that is, we have a system to clean it through. Most of the times in African-American churches, we have good data coming in, but we don't have necessarily good data that has been filtered coming out and or reported correctly. And so we need to be thinking of systems that can help us report information that we bring in correctly, i.e., if you have in tithing and you have a given application, what system do you have to clean that data outside of the current system that you have? And or if I'm thinking about the current climate that is changing names, in particular Google and things of that nature, it gives us an opportunity to reimagine those spaces ourselves. They can have whatever name they would like. We can name it too. We have that opportunity to do just that. And so that's how I look at it.
Okay. Dr. Lester, what about you? What do churches do with this whole notion of good data in and good data out? What does that look like for Black churches?
So hey everyone, good to be on here and great. You know what, Pastor Dr. Simmons, I'm gonna, because I know what her response is going to be, I'm gonna defer to Fallon because I want everyone to hear what Fallon's thought is about good data in, good data out.
All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna defer to Fallon because I love Fallon's thoughts on this. So, welcome, Dr. Fallon.
Justin, you're so kind, and I know you can answer this question too.
Oh yeah,
I just love how you engage in data. That's why I want you as I love
but I will say what I need to say. I'm joking. For me, I'm gonna be honest. I mean, the terming of it is garbage in and garbage out, in my opinion. And I think part of the challenge for our churches is that even saying the term data in, data out, only a privileged few will understand what that means, right? Yeah. And so I'm probably going to take 5 steps back and say that we need digital and data literacy trainings at our church. They have to understand what data is. Data could be, to your point, Reverend Hammonds. And a good one that I think everyone would know, back in the day, do y'all remember the little clickers? You would click the number of people that are coming to church to be able to report out. Being able to show examples that we have always been collecting data as a community and then helping them to understand how that can build or feed an algorithm that may not reflect who and what we are. And so I
Mm,
probably would take several steps back and say, in order to address the tyranny of,
hmm.
of our tech oligarchs at this point, it will require a lot of education and training of our pastoral leaders,
Yep.
our laity, on what data justice is and what is data, what is AI, what is machine learning, what is interoperable systems. I think there's a whole level of learning that needs to happen. So what church leaders can't mobilize if they don't understand what it is.
That's
And
right.
Mhm.
so for me,
That's right.
I think most of the work that I do is around trying to persuade pastors to think about implementing and data ministries within their churches and within their large connectional ministries. And once again, to Reverend Hammond's point, I'm pretty sure Dr. Lester will probably say something similar. Our churches have so much information. A
Yeah.
lot of it has to be digitalized and
Hmm.
annotated and all of those things and advertised in those ways. But we are a data rich community. We
Yes.
just need to be able to educate and train our communities to understand that. But I'll pitch it over to Reverend Lester.
Yeah, we can't just be consumers of that. I think because right now I think we have a lot of colonized code, right? And so to that point, I think the opportunity to what Dr. Wilson said to what DK said is exactly right. I think we have to educate people on it. Like as I've been teaching this cross country, we're so consumed with generative AI and have not understood what machine learning, deep learning, and neural networks are. And we have to get more, I think, entrenched in what it means to build this out instead of just consuming it. Because if not, this becomes a new form of slavery, right? And so it's just a bunch of white men telling us what to do, and they'll
Whoa.
build out exactly how we see patterns. Because all AI is predictive patterns, right? So
That's
all
right.
this is predictive patterns, and if right now all we're doing is just going and picking cotton, if we don't get to the building, the
Ooh,
seed sowing, and the building of it, so
did he
it's
say pick cotton?
well, yeah, and so it's picking code. It's colonized code right now, right? And it's whitewash code, and they can pick. So, like for example, when the Studio Ghibli pictures became popular, and Studio Ghibli's creator got frustrated, they just took it off. So now it's content you can't go make it. But if you still want to make Fat Albert pictures, if you still want to make Arthur pictures, if you still want to make Goofy pictures, you can go do it.
Mhm.
The things that represent Black culture, you can still go make it. But when white culture or Asian culture says they don't want their stuff out there, they can pull it off. It's they are
Yes.
still in control. And so we
Yes.
are consumers of it, which we have to be builders of it. And so I've been telling churches recently, if you are so consumed with how to make funny pictures and do your sermon notes, you are 3 years behind,
Ooh.
right? We have to
Yes.
get into the building, as Dr. Wilson said, the literacy, knowing what machine learning is, and the thing is too, waking up to the engineers and leaders inside of your church and affirming them.
Mhm.
We affirm preaching, we don't affirm building. So no, I think we
Mm.
really
Mhm.
have to get to like all those different spaces, so that we are not, looking up and back into another form of slavery.
Oh my
Mm.
goodness. Uh, Reverend Hammond, with all of that said,
Mhm.
do churches really need tech staff? Do they need staff? In other words, can AI help grow ministries for real?
Yes, and yes. Um,
Okay.
Most of the time, you're going to hear the conversation centered around it's what we can afford. And I would
Hmm.
dare to say, let's think it's a three-pronged approach, right? Yes, you need staff, but you also need advocates and ambassadors in your church who are also, as Pastor Lester already mentioned, who are also operating in this space who can already help us get there. And then you can think about hiring consultants and other people to come in to aid and assist. So the fact that we don't have enough of those types of people that are in tech, that are employed on our staff, that is helping us guide our digital plan and helping us with our tech stacks, it's an absolute problem. And I dare to say that we need to invest into the technology of our Black churches.
Okay. Yeah, and I think what Reverend Lester said, I think so many are 3 to 4 years behind already.
Of course,
Hmm.
of
And
course.
so, these kinds of one of the reasons I did this broadcast is because I want us to catch up. Um, so we all agree we
Mhm.
definitely need churches really do need tech staff. But Reverend Lester, can AI really help grow ministries?
Absolutely. I think the staffing, here's how I look at staffing. So Microsoft's work trend index came out a couple weeks ago and talked about moving from regular works to frontier firms. I think our churches have to move to frontier churches, where every person at the church, one, has an AI assistant, right? You have to have something that's built on the data of the church and solid knowledge base to have an AI assistant. I think that's number one. Number two, I think our hiring has to change. So it's not just the tech staff. We don't need more sound engineers. We don't need more camera operators. We need prompt engineers.
Say that again. We don't need more what? Say
We don't
that
need more
again.
sound staff. We don't need more video editors. We don't need more camera editors, because all of that can be done with artificial intelligence, right? Like my church right now, we have an AI camera. So we don't even need someone to run the cameras anymore. It's just, it tracks me and follows me. The same thing with sound. What we do need are prompt engineers. If we're going to, so our HVAC is AI now, right? Our security systems are AI. We need prompt engineers. We need machine learning engineers. We need prayer architects. We need office architects. I think our hiring processes have to completely shift, even in light of just data. Looking at push page data, looking at Microsoft's work trend index, our churches have to build AI assistants, if you will, based upon our knowledge bases that can now assist us. Because if not, this is what's happening not just in the world, but in general. And so now NVIDIA, for example, when I was at their conference, is making sure that every one of their engineers has a secondary brain, if you will, for every one of their engineers. So I think it's not just tech teams, because if we look up, we'll just have better production. But if you can put lipstick on a pig, right? And so we'll have a lot of production value. But I think now it's not, we don't need more tech teams and more creatives. We need thinkers. So I think that's prompt engineers, machine learning engineers, AI architects, office architects. We don't need more admins. We need UX researchers. We don't need more admins. We need UI designers. And to those, that's why I think the culture and language around hiring in the next 5 or 6 years has to completely shift to make it mandatory. Like, for example, for my church, for example, that pastor, in the hiring processes now, we have in their preferred skills Python, JavaScript, or CSS, right? Like, it's because that's just who I am. That's the pastor. And so if we're looking at the future, you got to know Python to work for me, right? Because if we're going to build this stuff, I need a knowledge base of my sermons, of my thinking, of my emails, of our culture that's going to help people engage in our chatbots, engage in Bible study, engage in how we do small groups. And so I think you need tech teams. That's production. I think you also need engineering teams and thinking teams, which will shift. Because if AI is going to take away 40 to 60 million jobs or create 85 million, those creation jobs are not just going to happen at Walmart and Target. It's also going to happen with our people. So that's my thoughts on that.
Okay. Dr. Wilson, in congregations, and you already alluded to this a bit.
I got to answer that last question.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I'm going to push back on my pastors just a little bit.
Please,
go ahead. That's why it's you three. Go ahead.
Sorry. The scholar in me is always angling for like ways to better say things. AI is going to grow our ministries. No, AI does not grow a ministry.
Whoa. Say it.
I am saying AI is not going to grow your ministry. I disagree with it. Can AI make your systems at the church efficient? Of course. Can it better take notes for you? Of course. Can it better keep up with the needs of your parishioners? Of course. But it does not grow a ministry. It makes systems that we already use more efficient. Does it help cut down on cost of having certain types of employed people? Yes. But does that grow a ministry? No. What grows a ministry in the season of AI, in my opinion, once again, to what Reverend Lester said, if there's going to be a huge shift in employment because AI makes systems efficient, because all of the predictive analytic data that can push out essays and videos and these types of very white collar, pink collar types of opportunities and jobs, then we will have a lot of people in our community who don't have jobs. So when you say, does AI grow the church can grow it by opening its doors to train and educate people, to become a resource for learning and relearning in this new AI moment. So that is how it will grow. But AI itself does not grow a church. If anything, it just streamlines processes. And we have to say that. See, I don't do the AI hype stuff. Let me just say there's a whole literature on the hype of AI. And AI is going to help us change the world. It's going to make us walk on water like Jesus. Have you heard pastors say these things, right? It is not that. It is efficiencies. And also, more so than anything for me, it is how do you retool the number of people in our communities who won't have jobs. That
Yes,
is the work of
absolutely.
our public ministries. That is how
Absolutely.
you grow the church. And so hiring additional UX people, hiring people, engineers. Let me just talk about the skill gap data here for first generation Black college students and majoring in STEM and computer science. And so if you want people that reflect us, there's a lot of additional work that has to be done K through 12, secondary and post-secondary schooling, so that we have the engineers that we need. And so the notion that they just are everywhere in our congregations, I don't know if I agree with that, Reverend Lester. It's not to say that they are not, but I don't know if it's as plentiful that all churches will just be able to pluck and play, which means that there has to be some larger trainings that we all commit to across our denominations and across our churches, right? To retool our communities for this work. And when you do that, because when you're able to retool people for this new work, you give them the economic mobility to take care of their families. You give them the information leadership to make decisions on how data is collected on them from the church and from their governments. I
All
don't
right
think the
now.
church should always hold our data and our information. I don't trust us always to make good decisions for our parishioners if we're being honest about how misogyny, homophobia, classism, and all these dynamics work, even within our church, within the
Whoa.
walls of the church. And now you have my data, you have my information, you've
Yep.
created a system that tracks. And let me be very clear, the revolution and the growth of the church is about educating and translating the space, not the AI systems themselves, which are systems. I don't even use agents. I am not going to give personifications to a technology that is based on, and often not based on, information that reflect who I am as a person or
That's
my
right.
community.
All right. All right. All right. You did need to answer. You definitely
Yeah,
need to
she
answer.
did. She did.
You did need to answer that question. So Reverend Hammond, when we look at congregations of, digital illiteracy, okay,
Mhm, mhm,
and those with low revenue,
mhm.
what steps do you take? What low cost, low risk, even to create a
Yeah,
culture that's safe,
yeah.
and so that we are working with
Mm,
tech. Okay, we're working with tech instead of just demonizing it for the sake of demonizing it because we don't understand it. So what kind of things do we need? Dr. Wilson said we need to do some work on the front end,
yeah,
K
yeah,
12. We need
yeah.
to do it that. So what kinds of things do we need, especially in many congregations who they're just enamored with AI.
Hmm.
They want
Hmm.
their flyers, they want their sound and etc.
Yeah,
What do you need for that level of people who are not literate?
yeah. When I saw these questions, was a really good one. I thought about my Sunday school teacher, who was also my he was a Mr. Powers, and Mr. Powers' wife was my principal in
Hmm.
elementary school.
Okay.
So information for me flowed through my Sunday church experience, through my Sunday school experience, into my regular day-to-day experience. And
Okay.
so I never had to retool or reimagine this. This is how I've always lived, where information flowed from my educational system into my church. And so what we're seeing is we have the tools and the resources there. We may need to reimagine, as Dr. Fallon's already stated, reimagine some of these spaces that we have and utilize those creative spaces like Sunday school. Now, Sunday school can be a conversation around tech, like Wednesday night Bible study. Let's take a moment to understand what's happening. Let's reignite these computer labs that we've had in the past, that we've stopped using, that we
Mm-hmm.
need to revisit and use now. And then let's also, the children shall lead us, right? The children shall lead us. Let's also invite our young people into this conversation, because it is not a conversation that ignores them. It should be a conversation that invites them into this space, because their information is as good as anybody else's.
Mm-hmm. So, Dr. Lester, what do you do in these congregations where of digital illiteracy? Let me just call it what it is. What kinds of low revenue, and they have low revenue. What kinds of steps can you take? Can be taken to bring them forward, and especially the steps that are not as expensive, because everybody is not, we got all the money.
Yeah,
What
I
kind
think
of things?
there's a couple of things there, and I think was it you, Dr. Wilson, who did work on this? It was like making sure we got Wi-Fi and computers to churches. Yeah, so it was your work. Yeah,
The
we had to get
Affordable
Wi-Fi and
Connectivity
computers to church.
Program.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
in the first place, right? So I mean, the first church I served at, I walked in, we were still connected to dial-up internet, right? So I mean, getting Wi-Fi was just like we got Wi-Fi. So we got to talk about churches that don't even have Wi-Fi. We got to talk about
Right,
members in our churches. I forgot the data. I'm sure Dr. Wilson would know, like the data on how many people in our communities don't even have computers. So before we
right.
even get to like all these tools, which is why like it's like it, and then so that I think that's the first part. If we're talking about tools and building computers and that, so we're doing a Python training class in a month at our church, and one of the things we're doing as well is buying computers for people in our community. They don't even have Windows
Yeah.
computers and stuff like we have to start there before I
Mhm.
even get, because like I want them to make the money on Python, but realizing half the folk in our context are going to the library, right? That's
Mhm.
one major spark, right? So I think that's the first step. So if we're going to talk about digital illiteracy and revenue, it's then saying like what are grants available, and then also the people in our church who aren't, because like what is it? I think that I forgot the data on tithing, but it's so low. But if you give people something to give to, they give to it. So when we put
That's
out there we want to purchase computers, I had 4 members that were like, hey, don't even bring that up again, I'll just buy them. You know what I'm saying? So it's
mm,
stuff like that where it's like you'd be surprised what people are willing to give and what people are willing to participate in. That's number one. And then number two, I think then to getting to DK's point, I think it's going to be more storytelling. I don't think we need to repurpose certain things. I think we need to tell stories. So like, for example, I just finished a series called AI to Z for every generation. AI to Z for boomers, AI to Z for Gen X, AI to Z for millennials, AI to Z for Gen Z. I'm releasing it at Hampton. So for those of you at Hampton, you'll get first dibs on my new books, AI to Z. And it's these handbooks. And one of the things I wrote in each one of them was like, hey, boomers, you all put a man on the moon, right? Hey, boomers. Hey, Gen X, you guys went from 8 tracks to cassette tapes. Do you guys know how revolutionary cassette tapes were? Hey, millennials, we're the best generation that ever existed, so we do everything perfect. Hey, Gen Z, right? I mean, and just looking at the innovative ways, the innovative DNA inside of all of us, because we look at, if we pull away from this and see technology as technique, which I really believe it is, when we see technology as our black technique as technology, it changes the framework on this to then be saying like, how do we tell stories with this work? How do we engage holistically what technology really is beyond just like a bunch of tools? Because I don't want to dumb technology down to a computer or tools or even like a media team. But how do we
mhm.
see our techniques first? What things do our people need to make sure that there's even an equal level playing field? And then from there, engaging in our community in terms of teaching, training, terms, literacy, understanding what's going on. And then I was telling a group of pastors last week, I said, you guys care more about potholes and prostitutes than you do about AI policy. So we have to
Ooh,
look at the policies
ooh,
that are happening at city council. Because I said, like, it's amazing. They'll bring me in to talk about homelessness in my city, but they
mhm,
won't bring me into the school board to talk about effective AI policies as I'm
mm,
traveling the country to talk about it. You'll bring me in to talk about, hiring, not even hiring practices. You'll bring me in to talk about like racial stuff in February, but you don't want to bring me in as a pastor to talk through like how are we making sure that the policies we're creating in the school board and the government and our communities reflect every person in our community, not just the black folks, but also in my community. 55% of people in my city, English is a second language. So are we making sure that this is inclusive? So I think it gets to a lot of larger questions when it comes to digital literacy, access, engagement, and then finally like application and making sure everyone is involved at the table to make it happen. And I think our churches can be great conduits and great catalysts for it. And you'd be surprised actually what is in the pews. Because I think also I got to make sure my context is clear. I am 45 minutes from Silicon Valley, right? So I got
mm,
members of my church that work at all these spaces. And so
mhm.
the access that my church has that some other churches in the Midwest may not have, or even the South may not have, are a little bit different. So I'm speaking this, I want to be really clear. I'm speaking this as I just met with a member of my church who works at Meta and builds and helps code maps at Google, right? So like it's a little bit of a different context here, but also I want to hopefully give framework because it's going to come into the middle eventually. And so I want to make sure I clarify that as I talk about some of the stuff we're doing.
Mhm.
God has graced us in this area to have access to some stuff. So that's my initial thoughts on it.
So, Dr. Wilson, you talked about what, especially what tech is and is not doing. So give us your assessment of where tech is, you believe tech is going in, let's say, the next 5 years. And is that a direction that the church should follow? Are there red flags we need to be looking out for?
I'm going to answer that also, but answer that last question too, just to double down on some of the things both pastors have said. First and foremost, we had an opportunity in this country to level the playing field with the digital divide. During the pandemic, our Congress finally understood that, oh my gosh, Black kids in Chicago, oh my gosh, Latino kids in Houston, in McDonald's parking lots can't get online to do remote learning. Let us pass a law that would allow them to have access to the internet, and let's get computers in their hand. The original policy bill for that was the emergency broadband benefit, which then became the affordable connectivity program. It was the first time in our country that our entire government understood that in order for us to be competitive against China, against Russia, we have to fix the digital divide in this country. And so that's what those policies were. And I will say there were amazing church leaders I worked with across the country that advocated for that bill to be passed. And so the church has not been out of the conversation on dealing with the digital divide. Not only are they not out of the conversation, to your point, Reverend Hammonds, even in the early 1990s, because some of the research and literature that I try to pull together is around public computing centers in our fellowship halls. We were not teaching Python, Reverend Lester, but we were definitely open job centers, right?
Yeah.
People would come into our churches, into our fellowship halls, into our recreation centers, and they would apply for jobs because job applications had switched to being online. And so we have always done this work. We have never thought about it as a ministry or now as an imperative, but we have always done it. So let me start there. And once again, for me, talking about a future in the next 5 years for technology means nothing to me if Black people don't have internet and devices.
My goodness.
It doesn't work. So no matter what Google is doing, no matter what Amazon is doing, no matter what our government is going to do with OpenAI, it doesn't matter. Because you will still have the majority of our communities locked out of the conversation. And then once again, there'll be a privileged few of us that are able to understand the world because we can afford a computer, a laptop, internet, and then have the trainings in our school systems. For instance, I would love for the church, once again, going back to this digital ministry piece of me, I know when we think about digital ministry, we think about digital evangelism. I am really talking about teaching and educating, not only about the ABCs of like digital upskilling and understanding how to turn on a computer, what is Excel, or even going to the part of the length of how to build an effective prompt, but I need policy recommendations because
right now,
structural conditions, right?
Yes.
So for me, when our government and our amazing president has decided that they're going to roll out the Digital Equity Act dollars from our community because we're Black,
right?
Which would have leveled completely the playing field for our community. We need our churches to mobilize. I can't see a digital future without mobilization and education. It is no different than what they did in the civil rights movement when it came to freedom schools. They understood for us to enfranchise Black people in the South, we had to teach them to read. We had to feed them. We had to do the work that the church already knows how to do. This doesn't require a computer science degree. It doesn't require understanding Python. It really requires that you understand the needs of your community and getting a Reverend Lester, to your point, to come and educate your church leaders on how to do this. And so 5 years from now, I know what our government, I know what I sit in United Nations meetings on these AI things. I know where the country and the world is going with this. For them, it is improved efficiencies all around. It is not people-centered. I don't care how much we say AI for good. Yes, let me just say this. Understanding all the data there is about cancer probably could produce new and novel drugs. It probably could help us have better ways of understanding how epidemics happen. But once again, all of that data is flawed because most of the data that they're using on people who look like us are deficit data.
That's right.
Prison data,
Mhm.
data about health challenges. It's never about our joys. It's never
Yeah.
about our love, right? And so I know, talk about.
Deficit data. That's what they
I
use.
feel like I'm the negative Nancy in these conversations.
No,
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 you're
no,
not.
no.
You're not.
You're
You're
not
not.
negative at
No,
all.
You're not.
Slow us
Not at
you're
all.
the
down.
truth teller. You're the
I just
truth
want to
teller.
slow us down
Yeah.
before we
Yeah.
build like they're building. And let me just say
Yes.
this. At this point, Reverend Lester and Reverend Hammonds, who are both technical leads, I'm a researcher. I'm data. I like data. I can't build what they build, but I understand data.
Yeah.
Being honest, they're great at what they do. The real issue here is being able to fine tune some of these models quickly. Like I want
Yes.
a Black church strategy on how to really do this at mass with all denominations and non-denominations pouring into an AI standards for how we govern our churches and our communities. This is what we need. And it's policy, because policy will change the structural conditions. People on the continent of Africa or those in Brazil, they have to think about structural conditions, not just computers and devices. They ain't got electricity. How do
That's
they
right.
compete in this world?
My
So
God.
for me, we need a more well-rounded discussion about AI.
Mm.
I don't want to sell Black rural churches in Takalaki, Mississippi, hope when they don't have consistent electricity to get the internet. Because
Or
our churches
water.
think, oh my God, AI this, but they don't got devices. It is
Yeah.
unequal. And there's no justice for me in this world until we fix that. You can never buy me into an AI moment until my grandmother, my nieces, and my nephews have access. So all I'm saying is, I know there's going to be a lot of things coming about AI this, AI that from our current government about getting people tied on. But remember, our communities don't have it. They don't have the foundation. And I need pastors to step up and to demand it with policy.
Yeah, and I think to
Yes.
me, Dr. Wilson, to your point though, is we are unified on disunity. So we'll just start another Congress, we'll start another convention. And so that's where it's like you're talking about stuff in the 50s and 60s when there were 2 or 3 Black denominations, and now every other week somebody's got an alliance, a Congress, a convention, a denomination that they're making up because they just want to make some money and close the doors, right? So I think it's interesting if we're talking about unity. I think we're unified on disunity. And even some of the spaces that we're engaging with, where you're very right, where it's like the world is moving so fast and we're over here putting together bylaws, right?
Yeah.
The world is moving so fast and we're over here consecrating more bishops. And it's like we can't even be unified on, man, how are we addressing, like we have not, the area I'm in, there's the alliance, one of the alliances within 20 minutes of where my church is, just welcomed the first woman to speak at a revival for the first time in their 100-year history. And so we're on that fight still. And so it's crazy to think that we're still having that discussion. Like even Dr. Wilson, like when Martha Simmons reached out to us, she was like, who is a woman in this space? Because I'm tired of just talking to men in this. And I was like, I just met Fallon Wilson. Let's make sure she's here. Because I'm sitting here just like, when it comes to men, you're not the only one. Not the only, you're not, hold on. Let me finish what I'm saying.
Just because you don't know.
Hold on, let me finish. Let me finish. What I'm saying is, you are very well known. What's unfortunate is there are not a lot of women that we still have, like you said before, misogyny, homophobia are still the things that play. And so then it becomes very male, very dominant, very who has money.
Let me
and
just
so
also say
that's
that
why it's important. That's why I'm just trying to bring those up. But
I don't want to hop on this.
negating that.
But let me just be clear about the leading scholars in this space of Black digital religion. It is indeed Black women. It's amazing, like Reverend Dr. Melva Sampson, amazing woman, Dr. Erica Gott. I can name a list of scholars and practitioners and theologians who are putting their teeth in the ground, biting down hard on how to do this for Black people, both in research and theology, but in policy, right? Now, if they ain't gonna Google, if they Google that, they will come up. And so and to your point, I hear your point. Your point is they're not in those spaces, they're not the preaching. But let me tell you, some of my biggest advocates are Gina Stewart, Reverend Dr. Renita Weems, who has consistently advocated for digital equity strategies, and she is well known. So if they don't know her, then I don't know what to do for these people in this world.
Well, like he said, though, here's the truth. The truth is, like you said, they just had their first woman first woman to come in and preach. Okay. So the truth, Dr. Wilson, is that there are places and spaces that are so far behind. Just like you said, the people didn't have electricity. There are churches and denominations that don't have electricity.
I'm about to say the electricity and misogyny. I don't know if electricity and misogyny.
And I think that's what we're.
I can fix.
Yeah, I think that's what we're getting to. Go ahead.
The part of the reason that they don't have electricity is because of misogyny. Okay,
there it is.
That's a big reason why they don't have electricity. And so we're talking about fixing multiple things.
Yes.
To move us, to get us to move forward. So, Reverend Hammond, you're out here, you're with these preachers, you see the misogyny, you know all of it. So, how do we take, well, we know the work that we've got to do down on the ground to help us, but how do you leverage technologies and platforms and etc. to do social justice work, to start to get at some of these things that are slowing us down? Reverend Lester talked about, we've had 100 conferences already this year. I may be exaggerating, but we've had a bunch of them. Yeah.
I think for me in that question, it's our job to be advocates and invite the right people to the table. So I'm gonna say it like this. Pastors, you have certain pastors in place that are simply hoarding and gatekeeping.
Whoa.
You need to invite the right people to the table to get some of these things taken care of.
Yeah.
You can't have an 80-year-old practitioner who's trying to potentially lead. I'm not trying to be an ageist, but I'm just trying to tell you what's true, because I've seen it and with my own eyes. You see, seen with my own eyes where we have a generation that's in front of it, hoarding, holding on to, when it's an opportunity for someone else who's more than qualified, who's done all of the work, regardless of gender. Invite the smart people to the table and stop settling for the scraps. This is how you do it. Now, if you're looking for some tools, there are various free tools you can use to help with the justice aspect. Man, you can use Google Forms. I could go down the road about tools you can use. But if you don't have the right people, that's the human resource. That's bigger than the AIs we've already mentioned. You have to have the people capital there doing the work.
So, Reverend Lester, what kind of pushes do we do? I mean, I know that association you're talking about. I spent 25 years in California. I know that association personally that you're talking about. So how do we start to do that, to make some of these social justice pushes that reach in our churches and into our community and then get us to policy?
Well, if we're talking tools, I'm shamelessly plugging the one I just built called Pastor GPT. Pastor GPT is made for Black pastors, Black pastor, me, to engage with us. So all of y'all on here, pastorgpt.co. I finally built it 2 weeks ago. And the goal of it is, as I was working on all these different things, I realized there was nothing built by Black, for me, that I found, by a Black pastor, for Black preaching, and for Black leaders. So it's Socratic, all of that. The goal is to help you think, because I love Claude for education couple weeks ago, and it's Socratic, so it doesn't give you an answer, it makes you think. So you have to talk, you have to think, you have to dive deeper into what you're doing. So it doesn't give you a sermon, it makes you think.
Praise God, it doesn't give you a sermon.
Yeah, that part, because I've heard some people all of a sudden they unlocking 4 hidden truths behind mess, and it's just, you need to study.
Oh, it's some preachers already using the sermon aspect in their sermons already, man. We the people,
it's very white conservative evangelical, and we talk about we preaching Jesus, you preaching MacArthur. That's what you're preaching. To the point of social justice, I think. I keep going back to Carter G. Woodson, what's old is new. And I think I pull away from technology. Once again, I have this big thought where it's like Black technique is technology. And I look at the innovative DNA, if you will, within us that we have to like what's old is new for us. So how we did things, the framework, the scaffolding of freedom work, the scaffolding of conversation, the scaffolding of liberation, to me, looking at how we're building communities, making sure we have a safe third space, and being willing to have not just difficult conversations, but also collaborative justice work, right? And so it's working with one another across generations, across gender gaps, across genders, across generations, across ages, across socioeconomic status. I think that to me is what's old is new, and then now technology can help accelerate it. Like to Fallon's point, give us the systems to sustain it and to accelerate it. What I don't want us to do is just jump into like 20 different tools
Yeah.
to do that, because I think that's just defeats the purpose. Because then now once again we have a bunch of white and Asian men telling us how to build our social justice work, and then they get all the data on it. I don't think it's going live anymore because we don't even own that. I don't think it's about the live streams. I think it's intentional resources in the scaffolding within our faith-based spaces and nonprofits to help us be fluent, in liberation work and ethic. I think because if not, we're raising up another generation who's trying to fix the wrongs of generation two prior to them. So my son's Gen Alpha, he's trying to fix the wrongs of my generation. So for example, like this whole Target fast, it's funny that he is adamant. Like we have not been to Target because he saw it on YouTube Kids when it was like, you can't go to Target. And someone gave him a Target gift card, he gave it back to them. This generation is trying to fix the wrong. So I'm curious how we're making sure we're giving them the scaffolding on how to do this, where you don't want to jump into failure. So I think it gets bigger than technology, where it gets
Hmm.
to like our techniques and how we are communicating our language, and not just letting slang dominate us, but how we are communicating concrete language, not just to fight the power, but to stand up to the empire. And so if we bring tech into it, I think it can accelerate and sustain our systems. But I think it's going to start with our techniques first, seeing it as a form of technology and an act of resistance. And to the point, the book that changed my mind on all of this, I gotta recommend it, is Algorithms of Oppression by Sophia Noble. That book just did me in terms of actually thinking of this at a systemic and much larger level, and
Yeah.
not just how we Google and how we use ChatGPT.
No, my goodness. That's the book. You all write that one down.
Algorithms of
Okay.
Oppression. Yeah.
Algorithms of Oppression. That's the book. When I first started to hear about AI and all these kinds of things, someone said, before you get into all of that, you need to read this book.
Yes.
You need to read this. So I can't recommend. I can't second that motion loudly enough. Dr. Wilson. So when you look at churches, organizations, and their leaders that may have limited understandings of resources, budgets, those kinds of things. If a group, let's say a church, is starting from ground zero, and they say we want to build our technological capacity, what would you tell them?
Can I answer that last question and then go into that one? I'm sorry.
You can go ahead. Go ahead.
You
Go
giving
ahead.
all the great questions. I always like to start with Dr. King's quote: "Injustice everywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." For me, it really is, and I'll make sure I tell Safia that y'all like her book. She's a good friend. You should also read Ruha Benjamin's The New Jim Code. There's a whole list of books we can provide that are doing this level of analysis on
Mhm.
justice issues in AI and other emerging tech. So not just AI, quantum dynamics, and all the other things that are coming down the pipe.
Can
I
you
will
connect me with
say,
her? Sorry, not to cut you off. Can you connect me with her? I really want to meet her.
which one, Safia or
Doctor,
Ruma?
yeah, both, but definitely Dr. Noble. Sorry,
Okay,
random
okay,
plug.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah, I can do that. Not a problem. But I will say this: for me, it begins offline. It begins, as Reverend Lester said, the techniques, and the techniques for me is, in particular around AI, is teaching about the supply chain of AI.
Mm.
I get really upset when my beautiful Black people, and I think a couple of months ago, maybe it was about 2 months ago, people were creating action figures of
Oh,
themselves, right?
yeah.
And you saw people like embodying their essence with the AI art generator function, right? And
Right.
every time I saw one, I get upset because that's a certain amount of fresh water we no longer have, right? What
Mm.
we don't understand about AI and the supply chain of it
Yeah.
is that in order to have a prompt response,
Yeah.
from the large language learning, the big ones, right? Remember when we were in school and we had those computers that would overheat? I mean,
Yeah.
you would be typing and then you hear the fan and it just go on and on and on. Imagine that being the size of 2 football fields, because there's so many people asking the algorithm a question. It has to whip through billions and terabytes of data in order to cool itself, because it's energy, right? You got to have electricity, it's energy whipping. You have to have water to cool it.
That's right.
And so if you look at where data centers are located, they're often located in communities with fresh water.
Yeah.
Why is that significant? We have finite water in this world.
That's right.
Fresh water, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you see that, then you'd be like, where are these data centers located? Oh, there is one in South Memphis, next to Reverend Dr. Gina Stewart's church, created by Elon Musk, that is emitting all types of toxins
Yeah.
in that neighborhood,
Yeah.
because he found a loophole through statute that allowed him to add additional types of generators to create, in order to make his algorithms quicker. So for me, it is like, how do you teach justice? You don't need to, once again, to be a computer scientist to do this. You don't have to understand code. You have to understand how oppression and violence and white nationalism and supremacy work,
Exactly.
because they're situating themselves. So ask me this. You ask ChatGPT, tell me what color blue you like, because you're just having fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to jump to Nairobi, to Kenya, where workers are being told to annotate data in order to be able to teach the algorithm, giving slave labor,
Yeah.
no wages. They're
Yeah.
having to unionize to afford their existence. And so when you talk about AI is going to solve this, AI is going to improve the environment, look at where it starts. It
Yeah.
starts with our natural resources, and it's slave labor. And that's not even just the data sets. And then we get to the data sets that are not created by us. And so you're reifying within technological ecosystems, a type of techno-political structure that doesn't see us and that will kill us in our communities. They don't have those data centers in the high, beautiful, high, rich communities. Why? That can be taught offline. That's injustice.
Yeah.
Even before I get to deconstructing code or fine-tuning data or all the types of strategies we could use with that. And so for me, teaching about AI is important. So only ask it the questions you really need help with. For those churches, to your point, who are at the plumb line of poverty, right?
Right.
For
Right.
those who are helping constituencies and they can barely keep the doors open, I would venture to say if they had to use AI, I would say we could help them easily develop a prompt that helped them create like grants, right? The thing about I used to run my church's community development corporation. I was executive director and a trustee of my church. And one of the things I hated back in the day is having to write so many grants. It's the same, in my mind, it's the same question. But every 5 seconds, they want to add an additional sentence to it. And then I
Right.
take time out. And so
Yeah.
applying for grants, an AI can help with that easily. It can reformat the content you already have. That puts you a step further to getting the resources you needed for your church, right? In addition to all the other things that Lester and Reverend Hammonds has said about efficiencies. But I would venture to say the big one is always, how can we who have the knowledge help those who don't? And to your point, Reverend Lester, you're right. We have so many denominations and non-denominations. You're right. We have grown in churchdom, right? But I believe for such a time as this, within and around all of those denominations, that there are people who want to get it right.
Yeah.
At this critical moment of a country who does not love us, and they're telling us in every way they're not going to support us.
Mhm.
Who do we have? But
Yeah.
people on this call, those who are listening in as seeds of a future digital revolution or a future digital civil rights moment that we must have. But that can only come, to your point, Reverend Lester, sharing our resources and our knowledge.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Showing,
Reverend,
showing up to the pastors who don't want to hear me because I'm going to talk about womanism. I mean, all that. You know, gotta give them all the things. You know?
oh no. We do that regularly here.
Yeah, about to say.
So
For
you'll have
real.
with the people wanting to hear. People who tune into this broadcast, they know what they're
Oh,
going
yes.
to. So so Reverend Hammond, I mean, like, you are out there. Like I said,
Yeah.
you are online, you're working with the pastors and etc. How do you help them find credible resources to do their research and understand what they're really doing when they talk about using AI? What should they be? All those kinds of things. How do you talk to them?
Well, I have a unique dynamic because I get a chance to work in both spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get to take information that is over here, that is high ticket, high dollar, and bring that information over to the people who cannot afford it and provide it to them. Usually, if you check my Facebook page, at no cost to you. This is information that I'm getting directly from these major sources. When I'm talking about major sources, we're talking about some of these Christian personalities in which you guys follow a lot of. Their stuff probably sits at my desk at some point. This is no lie. And so then there's a conversation that I bring into certain spaces that I don't even charge for. I just sit in there and just have a conversation like, hey, you need to know this because this is happening. Example, Black people, y'all need to know that venture capitalist is coming for your data. That's what y'all need to know.
I swear.
This ain't a lie. This ain't nothing I made up. This is what I know. They are buying the systems in which you are employing and putting your CRMs in, and they're buying them to extrapolate your data. I'm just telling you what I know. And so it's those types of conversations that I'm in. And then I share those with Brother Lester and Sister Wilson. Now she's my sister. We locked in. We family. We twins. And so now I get to share that. And so it is about impartation. And I'll be at Hampton as well. So check me out at Hampton. I'm going to impart stuff there. And we can sit down and have a conversation.
Are you doing a workshop? You're doing, Reverend Lester, I know you're doing books. Reverend Hammond, are you doing a workshop?
I will be doing a workshop with Reverend Stephen Thurston. Yes.
Wonderful.
And so,
wonderful.
I
was invited, but I couldn't do it this year. But thank you,
I wanted you there, Fallon.
I'm in Switzerland. There's a lot of things going on, but
I'm doing a workshop too.
Sure that she gets invited. We are out of time, but I want to do one last thing because I know people want this information. Reverend Hammond, give us a book.
Yes.
You want folk to read. Just 1, 2, or 3. Give us
the algorithm of oppression. The algorithm of oppression has already been mentioned. That's the top of my list. Let's see, I have here Race After Technology. That's another one that I've seen that I also picked up. Weapons of Math Destruction is another one that I'm picking up as well that I want people to read and get into. It's not enough for us to just sit down and talk about it. We also need to be enriching ourselves so we'll learn the policies and systems that's coming our way.
All right. Reverend Lester, you got another book?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw mine. Church of AI. Not gonna lie. Shameless plug. Yeah, my book, Church of AI. I look at ethics, theology. My main question is AI in the Bible, how we engage it, how we apply it to our churches. I love algorithms of oppression. Dr. Charlie Hames put out a book recently, Leverage Leadership, on understanding artificial intelligence in light of our churches, in light of a lot of Black churches and Black liberation theology. So it was great too. But yeah, definitely algorithms of oppression. I put my own book, Church of AI, and Leverage
Tell us
Leadership.
about your pamphlets again for the boomers.
Yeah. So AI to Z. I'm releasing them in Hampton, but AI to Z for every generation. So I have one for kids, AI to Z, A to Z for kids, AI to Z for Gen Z, for millennials, for Gen X, and for boomers. Each one of them is how to understand it, terminology, how to apply it, and like what to really get for our communities.
And where can people get that?
They'll be on Amazon, but they're and they'll be on my website as well. But I'm not bringing them out publicly, so they won't go live until I get to Hampton. So they'll come out the first week of June when I'm teaching at Hampton. So I'm excited about it. This will be really fun. But yeah, AI to Z, and the goal is they're 100-page handbooks on literally taking you from zero to AI. hopefully, in whatever time frame for every generation. So yeah.
Wonderful. Dr. Wilson, what books do you want to tell us about or recommend?
I would recommend Black Software by Charlton McClain. He helps us to situate that the internet and the creation of the internet was Black led. I think history is important to this moment. Once again, that Black people are not new to this. We've always done this. I would also say for all the pastors and leaders who are watching, you can attend our National Juneteenth Digital Equity Bible Study, where we're focusing on AI and workforce skills. It'll be online. Broadcast on Word Network and other Christian-based broadcasters. We do TV to try to reach everybody. But if you're in Detroit, you can also come see it in person, where the Reverend Tracy Blackman will give a word on the work that we're doing to organize the church in this space around AI, justice, and community. But hopefully, Reverend Dr. Simmons, we can send out a link so that people can access, and it's totally free. Everything.
Absolutely. Give us dates.
June 19th.
All right.
And I'm a Texan, so I know June 19th. They can't take it away from us. It's still a federal holiday. Y'all can tune in, okay? Revolution will be televised.
June 19th. The revolution will be televised. Thank you, everyone, for, my amazing guest. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my God. This has just been... Somebody just put it. See, somebody typed it, and I'm saying it. Woo! This was just so rich. So, like I told you, you're gonna listen, and then you're gonna have to play this back. Okay, you got to play this back. You're gonna have to tag some people. And like I said, it'll be up on my page for a couple of weeks. It'll be on YouTube for probably a couple of years. Thank you all so much for joining me. And I hope you, like I said, I won't be around for the end of May for Memorial Day. You all enjoy that. June 2nd, join me for a discussion on freedom fighting with some amazing guests. And then June 16th, we're going to do something we haven't done in, I think, maybe 7 years. We're going to talk about divorce. We're going to talk about divorce because it's time. As always, thank all of you for hitting my Cash App as an independent scholar. I appreciate that. Last but not least, and you know I'm going to say it, share the video. It won't cost you anything, and it will help some people. And for those who are you're lost. I don't know what all this AI stuff is and etc. You can reach out to these guests, okay? They will get you the information you need, whether they provide it personally or they give you other names. So reach out to them. God bless you all. Have a great week, everybody. And please remember the folk in St. Louis and the surrounding counties and what they're going through with the storms. God bless everybody. Have a great week. Thank you all.
Oh, we're done. Okay, cool. God bless you guys. Good to see you guys.
Yes, she just.
All right, bro. I'll let you, man.
Yeah.
Are we still live? Oh, we're still live. All right, man.